Hello, welcome to RCAM. I'm your host, Ryan, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope all of you guys are having a very, very blessed day. Let me get all situated here. There we go. All right. All right. Well, today we are going to be talking about whether or not Allie Beth Stuckey is, in fact, a girl a girl bus. She's a transformer. No, a girl boss. And people believe this because can you believe she had the audacity to tell men to be brave and courageous? The horror. The horror. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about whether or not watching pornography is actually good for marriage. Hmm. Watching degenerate pornography, is it good for marriage? I don't know. We'll see. We'll look in. We'll investigate this claim. We will also be discussing more on social benefits and why uh, taxpayers shouldn't be covering your condiments. Yes, taxpayers should not be covering your condiments. So no Dijon mustard for y'all. Sorry. So we'll discuss that too, because it is frustrating. It is something that I'm not even being facetious. No, we should not be covering uh, condiments. We shouldn't. If you don't need it to survive, then the taxpayer shouldn't be obligated to cover that. Period. Why allow the government to control your food? Yeah, that's a good question. Why allow the government to control your food? Like, why? Why don't we move away from this broken system? One of the arguments that I've been getting about taxpayer funded condiments is that poor people deserve flavor. Okay. What would it be fair then for me to be like, well, I'm poorer than billionaires, right? Should they cover filet mignon for me? Should they? Should they be obligated to fund my desire to eat really good steak? Should they? You'd probably say no, because I don't need filet mignon, even though it's really good. I would make make a stronger argument actually, because that actually provides real nutritional value. You get protein, but I'm not entitled to it. So, and I'm getting into the argument before I need to get into the argument. So, old school Guat, you have reeled me in before the appointed time. KMD, hello, brother. How are you doing today? Okay, let's get into this Allie Beth Stuckey thing. So, one of the things about actually following, right wing commentary for as long as I have is I've seen people like Allie Beth Stuckey and Matt Walsh kind of rise to prominence. So that's kind of been cool to watch their career trajectory. Hey, Rest Truth Pod. I hope you are having a very blessed evening, brother. Oh, cool news, bro. We yesterday went to a petting zoo, and well, not a petting zoo. We went to a fall festival that had a petting zoo at it, and my daughters got to pet Highland cows, some baby goats. There was even a capybara. They had a capybara, bro. It was pretty cool. The only disappointing thing was my wife was not there, which is probably good because if she was there, she probably would have died from cuteness overload from seeing the Highland cow. She loves Highland cows. We literally have a portrait of a Highland cow in our dining room. So there's that. Hold on, I gotta fix this camera. It's like cutting off the top of my head. And the top of my head is important. It needs to be here. It needs to be in view. Yeah. Yeah, Highland cows are awesome. All right, let's get into this conversation about Allie Beth Stuckey. So I've been following Allie Beth Stuckey for a long time. I'm not gonna say I regularly listen to her, but sometimes I'll pop in just to see what she's saying. So I'll watch a clip of her. And based on some of the stuff that I've watched from Allie Beth Stuckey, she does seem to be an authentic conservative voice. She's not showing her cleavage. She is works from home. She's having children. She talks about marriage in a positive light. She is about building God's kingdom. She is about biblical roles for women. So by every stretch of the imagination, she seems pretty traditional. And the only thing she's not traditional on is that she has an online presence. But let's be real. If the standard for being traditional is that you don't exist on the internet, well, I got bad news for you guys, because we all exist on the internet. And if we're really going to be traditional, if we're going to take it to the most extreme version, then we shouldn't have technology at all. We should be living in a cabin in the woods, heated by a chimney and writing with pen and parchment by candlelight. Okay. So I do think that claim that like, if you're a woman and you exist online at all, you're not traditional, is kind of ridiculous. No, not kind of. It is ridiculous, because it's really just an untenable standard if you're living in modern America. And I think the better term is not traditional, but biblical. Allie Beth Stuckey is a biblical woman. She is. Now, I may not agree with everything she stands for at the Bible, but for the most part, she does study the Bible. And her target audience is women. That's it. I know she speaks to women. I know, because I know she ain't speaking to me in her podcast. And I've heard her specifically address women's issues. She doesn't really address men's issues. That's not her lane. KMD, I don't support either the right or the left. Both sides, in my opinion, are trash. I can agree with that. Yeah, I can agree with that. Hey, old school Gwat. I thank you for the follow, man. Or man or woman. I can't tell. But I don't want to insult you by assuming your gender. But I appreciate the follow. So yeah, both sides are trash. I do think there is a side that is more trashy, though. Like, we're both operating with trash, and like, like, we'll call conservatives, like, the garbage pails, and we'll call like leftists the dumps, like literal dumps, where all the trash is. Let me stop. Just use Christian chat. Mostly just believers. I used to be up there a long time ago. I might make another kind of guy. In my opinion, we need to be speaking to women, and men need to be speaking to men. Yes, I agree with that. I actually agree with that. Yeah, I agree that it's good to have women like Allie Beth Stuckey in the faith. Which, by the way, women, especially older women, are supposed to actually be teaching younger women how to be biblical women, God-fearing women. That is actually a role they have according to the Bible. That's a role that is biblical, which I think is good. And men, we're supposed to be addressing primarily men, but the church as a whole, which also encompasses women. And we have this, we are in this position of authority to use our leadership, our God-given leadership, to be good stewards of the individuals that God has trusted to us. Now, if you're a married man, that would be your family, your wife, your children. You're supposed to be responsible for them under your headship, your leadership, and you're to care for them. That's good. That's biblical. That's right. So that is your responsibility, and the wife is supposed to submit to your leadership, and obey. And I know that's an ugly word. Obey? What? I have to obey my husband? Yeah, that's the Bible. All right. I don't know what to tell you. Now, obviously, there are some caveats, right? You know, if you're asking your wife to do something that's like against the Bible, then yeah, I don't think you should do that. Like, you're to fear God before man. All right. Period. That's it. And I'm supposed to fear God too. So hopefully, in a rightly ordered biblical household, you have the man who is hearing from God, teaching his wife to also hear from God, and he's leading his family in the way of Christ, in the way of righteousness. That's good. That's biblical. That's how it ought to be. All right. And then you have the wife playing a supportive role. She has been created to be our helpmate in accomplishing the mission and vision that God gave us, which is to preach the gospel to the uttermost bounds of the earth and make disciples. That is, the commission given to all men. Now, how that plays out in the world looks a little bit differently for everybody, but that is the general mandate from Christian men. All right, let's play some clips, and then we're going to talk about them a little bit. So this is one of the clips that she shared from her page at LSU last night. I spoke about the 5 most controversial truths Charlie Kirk championed. The most controversial: Jesus is the only way to heaven. And this will give you a general idea of the type of content that she does cover.
The most, by far, controversial thing that Charlie said that any of us could say is that Jesus is the only way to heaven. Yes, amen. Amen. Praise God. Amen. John 14:6 says, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That is the gospel. And if there is anyone in here who does not know the gospel, you don't know what all these crazy people just stood up to clap for, that's okay. I just want to tell you some bad news first. The bad news is you're a sinner. You've done some bad things. We all have. Every single one of us has sinned. Every single one of us falls short of God's perfect standard, and that is his standard, perfection. He can't tolerate sin because he's a perfect, holy God, and he could have just left us to pay for our sin. And the payment for our sin is death, not just here, but in eternity in hell forever. That's what he could have left us for, but he didn't. He sent his own son, Jesus, to die on the cross, to live a sinless life, and then to sacrifice himself for our sin, and then to raise himself up by his own power 3 days later, defeating death. And by grace through faith, if you believe in that gospel, you won't die, but you'll have eternal life. You'll get to spend eternity in heaven with God. And that is true for every single person. That is true for all of you in this room.
Wow, that is pretty radical. Hardcore what she's saying, right? And it is pretty radical, actually, for a world that doesn't believe in the gospel. Hey, Cly, listen, I've had my X chat open all the time now. I will not miss a chat. I will not miss any chats unless you're on Kick. Then I don't know what to do for you. I'm sorry. Unless you're the one bot on Kick. All right. But Allie Beth Stuckey, that's the gospel. It's good. It is controversial to those who are perishing. But That is basically the gist of what she says. She is constantly communicating the gospel, and primarily toward women. Now, she just happens to be invited to speak at a Turning Point conference where she has the opportunity to speak to both men and women. All right. Is she not allowed to take those opportunities? Oh, there's men there. Sorry, I can't speak at all. I'm not allowed to, says the trolls on the internet. What? No, she has a greater mandate to share the gospel. All right. She's not here doing a seminar in biblical exegesis. All right. She's sharing the gospel, which is a mandate for all who believe on the name of Jesus Christ. That's good. And she's also invited, to be at these events by, the folks over at Turning Point USA. And she wants to honor her friend, Charlie Kirk, who also championed the gospel, which is why her sermon her, I guess, points is ultimately about 5 truths that Charlie Kirk spoke, which I think that's good. So here's another part of that clip that a lot of people are making a big deal of. And I without presenting any context, all right, I just want you to tell me what the problem is here. Because only I'll leave it up to you. You tell me what the problem is here.
That feminism has failed women. Second one, are you ready? Are you ready?
So one of her points is that feminism failed women. I think that's the first point. The second point, that she's going to go on her second point now.
Porn has weakened men. And Charlie was so good at talking about this and so good at talking so courageously and sternly and clearly to the young men. Here's what we know about porn and why it is so detrimental, not only to men, although it disproportionately affects men. Porn objectifies women and children. It commercializes sex, which is a gift from God for a married couple between one man and one woman, and it glorifies violence. It creates addiction and shame. It destroys marriages. It ruins your perception of other people. It is a legal loophole for sex trafficking. It is evil in every way, and it will destroy your life. And this is what I would want to say to men, and I hope that you hear it from strong men in your life, that men, we need you. And we need your masculinity, and we need your strength, and we need your boldness, and we need your courage, and we need those things to be harnessed for good. We need you to be solid pastors. We need you to be strong leaders. We need your voice. We need you to bravely stand up for the most vulnerable, to stand up for women and children and for the unborn, to raise a respectful ruckus for the things that matter. We need really strong men, and porn makes you weak.
Where was the controversy? What part of that speech do you think people had a problem with? KMD, have both men and women at events. The women can speak at the stand to women, and the men can speak to the stand to the men. I mean, it's one big conference, though. Like one big conference that they're all speaking at. And I don't see the issue here with telling men what to do. Well, yeah, that is obviously the controversy. So here we have Pastor Mathis. Men, we need you. Proceeds to talk instead of stepping down for a man to lead. These girl bosses suck up all funds and oxygen that qualified men could be using to make a public stand. So they translate this to be a girl boss speech, basically equating Allie Beth Stuckey to lecturing men Instead, she's challenging men to rise up to be the leaders that she knows they can be and to abandon their pathetic porn addiction. How scandalous. How controversial. How dare she? It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous that this is what people are taking issue with. Because she is calling on men to actually, I don't know, be men, act like men, act like like a man, and stand up for what is good, to be brave and courageous. What's wrong with that? I don't get it, man. And this is like where I think like the internet has just broken people's brain. They see a woman that says something completely and totally innocuous, right? Like, just like, yeah, oh, yeah, thank you for actually being a source of encouragement. You know, like men don't get it, don't really get it. And she's calling people to actually stand up and be the men that they're called to be. She's calling them to be strong, brave, and masculine, and rightly identifying that porn is destructive to men. Why is that an issue? If you're a guy and you have a problem with this, are you so soft and effeminate, like a fragile little flower, that a woman calling you to be brave um, evokes rage? Like, it just seems pathetic to me. I'm sorry. Res Truth Pod, she was talking about a common problem a lot of men face. I don't see any problem with that. Nope. Because there is no problem with it. It is a huge problem, though. It's a huge problem that's pervasive, that is weakening men. And she took a small segment of her speech, by the way, after she had already correctly identified feminism as being a poison, to address it. Because she understands that women cannot do this alone. They do need men to be brave and strong and masculine. And pornography is cowardly. Watching it is cowardly. It's pathetic. It's weak. It's the opposite of bravery. And it is emasculating. And people are taking issues with this. It's just flat out insane to me. And we have here Pearl Davis, my favorite right-wing red pill influencer. Is it not weird to you guys that you have a married woman lecturing other men about porn? No, not really. At all, actually. She's encouraging them to be the men that God called them to be. At a conference that she was invited to speak at, where she spent the first, point talking about the poisons of feminism and identifying huge cultural problems that men are facing. I'm glad somebody's talking about it, because it is a real issue. Res Truth Pod, I feel myself like a thistle. I just can't with these people, man. I cannot, dude. And what else? And this is not hold on a second. I want to make sure, because Pearl does make a couple other points. Yeah. So the men are getting upset about this. Pearl is upset about this. She's basically a dude, though. she's upset about this, and I don't get it. And then she call you know, they call us feminist. We're feminists because we oppose porn. We're feminists because what I oppose or I support Allie Beth Stuckey actually speaking out against this thing that's entangling women. And by the way, no one is stopping. You know, you had this first pastor here, Pastor Mathis. No one is stopping these pastors from going out and speaking against this. Do it. Do it. I mean, who's stopping you? I like you can go out and do it too. But maybe it's not that they care that she's speaking. Maybe they're jealous that she has a larger platform than them. And that's what this is really about. That they're irrelevant, that nobody's listening to them, and she actually has a level of influence. Maybe it's that. I don't know. I've never stopped speaking out against pornography, and I don't even have a huge platform. I have a tiny platform, but I still do it because it's important, because I know that it is destroying men's marriages, destroying men's relationships, that is toxic and corrosive to the human heart, that it treats God's daughters like prostitutes. And now this is not to say, by the way, that I handled the prostitutes with kids' gloves either, because I certainly do not. And this is not to say that we should be did my comment get deleted? We're all responsible on earth. We submit to husband. Oh, wait, maybe I missed it. I'm sorry, man. I think I missed your comment. We are all responsible to God while on earth. We submit when it's reasonable. Women obey husbands as long as it's not morally wrong. Yeah, men obey God at all times. If either men or women are wrong, they disobey is what I'm thinking you said. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, exactly. But I do think that we have a huge problem where I will make one concession. Okay, here's the concession that I'm going to make, is that women do tend to be women do tend to get kids gloves, like men often do get lectured about everything wrong with them, but they want to turn a blind eye to like prostitutes. Like we will hear a lot about men like Nick Fuentes and how he's awful and bad and a horrible human being, all this stuff. Which okay, whatever. You're gonna make that argument, but at the same time, like like we don't hear enough about women like Bonnie Blue, who's like the queen of prostitutes, like the harlot of harlots. Oh, God, Jesus, I'm trying to find this post and I made a huge mistake. We'll talk about it later because I cannot safely look up what I'm trying to look up. Good Lord. I'm so upset right now. I saw something I should not have seen. Made me really, really uncomfortable. Maybe I have it saved. Give me a second here. Let me find this. I can't find it, and I really don't want to look up anything inappropriate. Okay. So we had Pearl here criticizing them, and then she said this too. God. Is it better for men in sexless marriages to cheat or to watch porn? How about neither? How about this is an opportunity to actually correct women and say, hey, have sex with your husband. It's not right to deprive your husband of sex. That's wrong. You're married. A husband should not be in a sexless marriage. But it's also not right, by the way, for the husband, if his wife is depriving him of sex, which is wrong and should be corrected, to then go out and cheat or watch porn. Both bad. Both are considered adultery. Both are sinful behaviors. So don't go out and do that. Demonstrate a little bit of self-control, and don't go betray your marital vows because your wife is being disobedient. Correct her. If she's unwilling to listen, this is the perfect opportunity to get the church involved. This is why we have church discipline to begin with. Is if things are going awry and you can't work out the situation amongst each other, you bring it to the church, and it gets corrected, or it should get corrected. And yeah, I think if you're a woman and you're depriving your husband sex, why? Is a question you need to ask yourself. And try to work through whatever that is, whatever barrier that is. And yeah, figure it out. But sexless marriage doesn't justify cheating or watching porn. Sexless marriages have deeper issues. It's not that simple. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of issues with it. Like I don't know. That's not been my experience, but I'm sure there's a lot of different issues. And it needs to be resolved. One of the issues too that might cause problems in a marriage is men watching porn. And not being able to fulfill their duties to their wife. That could be an issue. Or a woman wrongly prioritizing the order of her household. That could cause issues too. Or she's run down by the kids. Or she's more committed to the kids than to her husband. That's an issue. There's a bunch of issues, but the solution to the issue is not adultery. It's never adultery. If the solution to your problem is to sin against God, that's not a solution. KMD says, as far as what she said at the event, we men just don't trust women anymore. We assume they're all feminist. We think they're all secretly trying to control us. The red pill continues to get stronger. All right. I mean, if you guys don't want to trust women, don't trust women. Women are, some of my favorite people, and I enjoy companionship, and I think distrusting an entire group of people is kind of silly, to be honest with you. Respectfully, dude. I think there are certainly good women out there. I think, yeah, we do have to deal with the problem of feminism, but giving up on women, I don't think is the solution to that. I think it's weak. I think, if anything, we need strong men to rise up and actually lead women in godly ways, to be the men that God created them to be, to raise a standard for both men and women. They use it to manipulate. Yeah, that's wrong too. So, and you won't hear me say anything like that. It's wrong to use sex or weaponize sex against your husband. That's wrong. And you shouldn't do that. It should be corrected. And I'm not here justifying sexless marriages, by the way. I would I would not be down with that. That's not cool. That's not good. That's not godly. That's not biblical. But neither is adultery or watching pornography, which is also adultery. All right. So here's a clip, and I want to play this clip because it does set up this conversation. We're going to continue to stay in this vein on pornography. This is by from the Nick Fuentes interview with Tucker Carlson.
And so something that is almost never talked about is that this is a generation that's totally sexually dysfunctional, I think, because of pornography. And some people are able to cope with it. Some people don't have a problem. But I think a lot of people, and maybe even a small minority, have a serious problem with it. And the problem,
make people sexually dysfunctional.
I think that it's impossible for a real woman to compete with the availability and the novelty of pornography. A real woman, like without getting graphic, she's only one person, and maybe she wants to do something sexual, maybe she doesn't. Porn is, you could have 100 different women in one sitting doing anything. That whatever niche or idiosyncratic thing a person might be into, it's there. And so I think that novelty combined with that availability, it makes it so that, when you think about courting a woman, juice isn't worth the squeeze. And so there's like also a problem of like erectile dysfunction, people that can't enjoy regular sex because it does not compare to the intensity, the novelty, and the availability of porn. It's hyper stimulation. And so I think that's sabotaging a lot of normal sexual relationships.
It seems like it's making a lot of people gay, too.
Yeah, and trans.
Do you think that's true?
100%.
What is that?
I think that the novelty is a huge part of that. I think that if you are somebody that uses pornography multiple times per day, which many people do.
Actually?
Oh, absolutely.
That's a lot of jerking off.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And, if you're doing that multiple times a day, every day, for years, since you're a kid, well, eventually you get bored.
Yeah.
And you want to move on to something more extreme. And you're kind of, it operates, I think, similar to like a drug. You kind of have the same kind of resistance to it that you would to a drug, or a tolerance for it. And you're always chasing that initial feeling the first time you used it, or the first time you saw a certain thing. And I think eventually you just chase more taboo, more transgressive. And I think maybe some people are more prone to that than other people, going in a really good direction.
How Charlie Sheen got AIDS, actually.
Yeah.
Through just being jaded and looking for something more transgressive. That's just a fact.
And there's something, too, about what it does when you look at it. Because people don't realize that it is a fundamentally different experience being involved in intercourse versus watching other people have intercourse. And I think that actually does something to you.
Tell me, what do you mean?
I think that, for example, I think Steve Saylor has written about this, that there's multiple kinds of transsexuals. And he says that one kind of transsexual is somebody that likes the idea of seeing themselves as a woman, it's autogynephilia.
Yes.
And I think that, one of the theories for that is you watch a man having sex with a woman that isn't you so much, you kind of achieve an identity with the woman in like a weird, sick way. You almost identify with the woman. And so there's weird things that happen when you're watching that and having such strong emotional and sexual experiences with it.
So, porn makes you gay. I mean, it does. So, 10 out of 10 do not recommend it. In addition to ED and exploring more violent fantasies, it's a net negative. Also, like, it continues. Like, I love the red pill will constantly rail on prostitutes, and rightfully so. But then they'll encourage watching prostitutes. What? 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 I don't get it. I don't understand. It does not compute. It does not make sense. You can't rail against uh uh prostitution and then also support men watching prostitution. It's like saying cocaine is bad. Don't do cocaine. Or don't sell cocaine. But also, men, you should go buy cocaine. Like, come on. What? Without getting R-rated, this is a PG channel. I'll admit I'm guilty of watching X-rated content, but I'm really not that desperate for it. If it's banned, cool. Likewise, I hate the extreme. Well, I mean, brother, I'm going to be completely just forward with you. You got to find a way to stop doing that. For real. It's going to hurt you. And it hurts the women that you're watching, and you're better than that. And you can overcome it, but you do have to. You have to move beyond that. And if you need help or direction, feel free to message me. But that is something that will have implications in your life. You know, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you want to meet a godly woman, you first have to stop being a godly man. And there's nothing godly about watching strangers having sex online. That's going to do damage to you. Well, it's damaging your soul and damaging your relationship with God, and will ultimately damage your relationship with your future spouse. It's damaging to the women that are creating the content. And another thing too that a lot of men don't think about, and this is actually something that shook me because I used to have an issue with it, and I've been porn free for quite some time, and I'm very happy about that fact. But something that rocked me was I forget what I was reading, but basically I had realized that the porn industry also fuels the human trafficking industry, which is something that I find horrifying, truly horrifying. Like, it is something that haunts me. And when I realized, like, oh my God, like, I don't actually know who I'm watching in these videos. And what if I'm like indirectly, or I was indirectly supporting that stuff because I never knew. And so I can't have that on my conscience. So it's it really rocked me and rattled me. And that definitely helped with me kind of moving away from it. Hey, Zarawa 3, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. But yeah, you need to focus on becoming the type of man that you would want your future spouse to marry. And I think both you and I know that you would not want your future spouse to marry somebody that's addicted to watching pornography. So another thing too, that should challenge men. If you're a man watching this and you do struggle with pornography, I love this quote by Mark Driscoll because it's just really good. You can't storm the gates of hell with a bottle of lotion in your hand and your pants around your ankle. You can't. We were called to be soldiers and warriors. That's the calling on our life. And we can't be the men that God created us to be while we're struggling with sexual desire and sexual impulse. We have to have enough discipline to be able to overcome that and become the men that God created us to be. Angel Vibe says, "Amen, amen." Yeah, we need to, and this is why Allie's message was actually really encouraging, because she recognizes who we need to be, and she's challenging the men to rise up to be the person that they were created to be. Can I please post this? Yeah, I mean, I will definitely post this. This is also, if you're watching this on TikTok, these live shows are available for video on demand on YouTube and on Rumble and on X. But maybe I'll clip this segment and share it. Yeah, I appreciate that, truly, and I'm passionate about this because I've seen pornography do damage, and I want men to step into their God-given purpose, to be who God created them to be, to lead women, to pull them out of that industry, to show them that they are more than sexual objects for men's pleasure, but they were created to be God-fearing women after God's heart. And I do think this is important. And my hope is ultimately that we reach a point where this is banned. Like we start to recognize, that porn is glorified prostitution, and we ban it. And you want to know something interesting too? This is one of those rare issues where both left-wingers and right-wingers are against it. I went on an episode of Jubilee, and I had this opportunity to have, conversation with leftists, and we both agreed that porn is not a good way for men to spend their time. Like, they should not be watching porn. It's not beneficial. And both sides identified how destructive it is to the soul of man. I think that's important. Okay, recently I've been watching Bad Success. I'm not really into it like that. I once was, but I still watch occasionally when I'm getting some feelings. Well, good on you for, moving away from it. And keep trying, keep pushing. If you have a slip up, don't use it as an excuse to go on a binge. Just try your best to stop and, switch, change gears. If you feel your mind going there, do something else. Cultivate healthy disciplines too. A good way to be disciplined in your sexual impulses is to cultivate discipline in other areas. So, focus on exercise and physical fitness. Focus on developing disciplines in other areas. Prayer, so that you have tools in your belt to turn to when you're feeling desire. All right, back to the post. So Pearl says, let me move this stupid widget. It's obnoxious. All right. Pearl says, porn has saved more marriages than it has broken up. And I love this community notes, right? This is the community notes, has several articles linked. Frequent porn use is linked to lower marital satisfaction, higher divorce risk. Heavy solo use often correlates with reduced intimacy and trust. Effects vary by gender, shared use, and relationship quality. And for the person that was commenting earlier on the lack of trust for the other sex, maybe that's an answer to why there is a little bit of lack of trust. Because also, you're seeing women, man, this is crazy. I never thought about this till now. When you're watching pornography, you're seeing women behave in some of the most disgusting lights possible. So that is shaping your view of women. So if you're seeing women acting like horse, that's the view that you're going to have of all women. When you're seeing women objectify themselves, you're going to view every woman like she's someone that wants to be objectified. And that is not how we should be viewing women. So yeah, it would create this unhealthy view of women. It would lead to a degree of distrust for women if that's the light that you're looking at them. Which is more of a reason not to watch that stuff, because it affects the way that you view women. And then, when you get married to them, it also creates unhealthy expectations for what sex actually looks like in marriage. You're trying to recreate these moments that you've seen in your mind, or you've seen in these sites that you visited in your relationship, and it perverts something that God intended to be beautiful. So anyway, I love this dunk on Pearl because obviously porn has not saved marriages. Pearl is frankly retarded, and she has no idea what she's talking about. And can we stop? Can we please freaking just stop pretending like she's a good person? Because she's actually not. She's actively promotes cheating, men watching porn, and behaving like sexual degenerates. For anything good that she's done, it's like immediately like there's an asterisk next to it, because she also has these negative things that she does, I think, more frequently. So, okay. So all that to say, porn is destructive to your soul. If you are watching it, you got to repent. If you need help, there are resources out there. If you need someone to talk to about it, you could definitely reach out to me. I will be happy to talk to you about it, pray for you about it, try to get you some of those resources, and spend time immersed in the Word and look at women the way that God looks at women. That's the healthiest view you can have of women, is to look at them in the same light Jesus looks at them. Now, I wanted to talk about this, but I could not safely look up the video because there's the other side of it that I want to talk about. And this is the women actually selling the content, making the content. So I'm not gonna play the video, or I'm not gonna look up the video, because I realized the second I tried to look it up before that it was a huge mistake, and I don't want to inadvertently show porn on stream. I don't want to do that. And unfortunately, with Twitter, you kind of get exposed to that. But there was a video making arounds of a adult entertainer, quote unquote, named Bonnie Blue. She is notorious for sleeping with like 1,000 dudes, and she's going on a quote unquote tour across the United Kingdom in a bus, trying to sleep with as many college students as possible. And she's filming the whole thing and making content out of it for her OnlyFans, and it is one of the most degenerate things I've ever heard of. When people criticize like men like Nick Fuentes, and people wag their fingers at men, I do think there is also far more attention that is needed toward women like Bonnie Blue. I actually think what she's doing should be criminal, because it is so degenerate. It makes me sick. She is literally like the harlot riding through the UK right now. She's literally the type of woman that the Bible warns men to stay away from. And I do think we need to return to a time where we get serious about banning prostitution. And this is exactly what that is. It's legal prostitution. You know, maybe she's not directly getting paid for what she's doing, but she is getting paid by the people subscribing to her Only Degenerates page. That's prostitution. That's exchanging sex for money. And it needs to be illegal. It needs to be outlawed. We actually need to have, you know, we can't do anything about the UK, but we can do something about it here. And we really do need to start having members of well, the first thing we need to do is have the Supreme Court here be more like Dubai. I don't know what they do in Dubai, but I'm curious. But we need to have the Supreme Court hear a case about porn being allegedly free speech. It's not free speech. What are they saying? What are they communicating exactly? What speech is happening? It's not free speech. It's not speech at all. It's degeneracy, and it needs to be outlawed. It needs to be criminalized. And those engaging in it need to go to prison. Call that harsh? I don't care. They need to go to prison. It is a cultural rot. And what she is doing is one of the most evil things I've seen in modern times. Like she is up there with some of the most evil men in history. She is like a modern Jezebel. And I'm not being exaggerating when I say that. When you are somebody that has slept with 1,000 men and you have basically a sex tour, you have crossed the Rubicon into pure evil. Pure evil. She does it with a smile on her face. And then brags about how she's used the money that she's fleeced from these pathetic men to, buy her Lambo and fund her salacious lifestyle. It's sick. All right. Let's man, there's so much to talk about and not enough time to talk about it. Oh, give me one moment. I gotta step out and get wifey. All right. Let's see here. I think we're just going to cover this last story and then I'm going to run. Well, let me see how long I've been streaming. All right. Yeah, we'll cover this last story and then we are going to call it quits. Just revisiting what I was talking about yesterday, because I do think this is this conversation needs to happen. All right. So we have, obviously, we talked previously about how I do not think that we need to continue to fund, things like EBT and SNAP and all these social programs, because I think, uh, these people collecting these social benefits are mostly ungrateful brats. And I'll just be plain about it. But then I saw this, and so this is a gray Poupon Dijon mustard 10-ounce squeeze bottle, and it's SNAP and EBT eligible. And this person says, I mean, come on. And he's laughing, because they can use our tax dollars to buy their mustard, which, by the way, is not a need. All right. No one's going to starve if they don't have access to mustard, but yet this is being funded by the taxpayer. And this person said, how dare poors have access to fancy mustard? And I say, yes, actually, how dare they? They should only have access to food that provides them with the basic nutrition they need to not starve to death. If they want fancy mustard, then they can buy it with their own money. It's really that simple. And I was saying earlier in the stream that imagine for a second that I thought I was entitled to, billionaires funding my appetite for steak, or not just steak, but flaming out. And then acting indignant if they're saying, yeah, you don't actually need flaming on. You could just get like a basic flank steak. That's fine. That's what we're going to give you. Well, this is exactly that. They don't need Dijon mustard. They don't need condiments. They need basic foods that are going to give them the sustenance that they need to not go hungry, to not starve. Anything beyond that, condiments, junk food, sweets, they can use their own money to purchase. That shouldn't even be controversial. That's just common sense. Our taxpayer dollars should not be funding the junk food habits of people that are themselves not contributing to the system. We shouldn't have to pay for that. I was saying to my wife yesterday that it would be different. I might have a different attitude toward this if I saw a little bit of gratitude from the people that were leeching off of our benefits. If they actually expressed gratitude for having programs like SNAP and thanking the taxpayers. But I've never seen it. I've never seen an ounce of gratitude, not once. And I would like you to think about it. Has anybody that collecting SNAP or food stamps expressed gratitude for a program like that existing? No. All I've seen is entitlement. And beyond entitlement, I've seen people threatening to harm white people if they lose their access to our taxpayer funded social programs. So if we don't fund their unhealthy lifestyle, some of them will physically try to harm us, which is just more evidence that we need to abandon these programs like yesterday. Like, they need to be completely revamped. And what we honestly, what I think is the government should not be in the business of subsidizing anything, because anytime they subsidize anything, the prices go up. Instead, we should entrust the church to actually meet the needs of the poor. That way, they have a better thumb on what is going on in their community. There's a layer of accountability, and they will be far better equipped to meet the needs of the people in their community than Big Brother, who doesn't know really anything about the communities that they have these social programs available for. And that way, it doesn't breed this sense of entitlement. I also think too, for there is something about like actually going to like a soup kitchen or going to a church and having to humble yourself to to get food. Whereas like with, a government run funded program, there's no I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. But there's really no connection there. So they don't really understand that the taxpayers are making this happen, because they actually think it's like free food. A lot of them don't even understand that it's taxpayer funded. They just think it's free food, because that's the messaging, by the way. So like anytime Democrats say something's free, just think taxpayer funded. Taxpayer funded. But when they think there's something free, they don't understand that there's a cost to it. And the burden is on the taxpayer. When you're getting food items from a food bank, you actually see it leaving the food bank. So you understand that you're taking these resources. That's something that you don't actually get when you're getting money just deposited in your account. You're not feeling the weight of it. And I think when you actually see that it's coming from somebody, at least I'd like to think that creates a sense in your mind that you need to be grateful for what has been given to you. And I say all this to communicate that this is why I do not think the taxpayer should be buying your condiments. You do not deserve fancy mustard. You deserve the basic requirements to keep you alive, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you say, I have a lot of people saying, things like, you say you love Jesus. Is this what Jesus would say to concerning the poor? No, actually, it's not what Jesus would say. Jesus would actually say, he would tell us to feed the poor individually. He would not call on the government to feed the poor using our tax dollars. He calls us to do it personally, because he wants us to be personally invested in the lives of the people around us. He does not want the government to coerce us into being charitable. He actually wants us to be charitable. So that's what I think Jesus would say. All right. Why not both? Hold on a second. Oh, I actually do have someone here from the kick. I gotta see what they're saying though. Sorry, I missed your chat, man. I thought you were a robot. I love Jesus. Why not both? Hey, buddy. I missed what you said, man, but I do appreciate you tuning in. I do appreciate you, man. And if you're not following, if any of you are not following, what are you waiting for? Just go ahead and click the follow button. No effort, easy peasy, and it supports creators like me. All right, I do think that is probably gonna do it for me tonight, though. I will be back tomorrow, and I will actually be taking the day off on Saturday, I think, because I will be going to DreamHack this weekend. So I'm pretty excited to meet a lot of my Rumble peeps over there, and that'll be fun. So I will be there this weekend. I'll be doing my last stream for the week tomorrow, and then I will be back on Tuesday, or maybe Monday, because I do a streamy with Wifey on Monday. So we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the comments. We got actually a pretty active chat today, so I appreciate it. I got a lot of love on pretty much every platform today, so appreciate you guys. And if you ever need prayer for anything or have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to talk. And I hope that you guys have a very blessed night. God bless. Deuces.
you